Say hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our day.
Welcome to our day.
Good boy.
All day rock and roll.
That was the best.
Day 11, Snow White and the Three Giants. Since meeting the dwarfs, Snow White had visited them often. She now knew the path to their cottage quite well, but one day, distracted by her woodland friends, she took a wrong turn in the woods and got lost on her way to the dwarfs' home. When she found another cottage in the woods, she knocked on the door, hoping whoever lived there could help her find her way, but no one answered. She noticed that the door was slightly open, so she stepped inside and exclaimed, "Oh my!" Instead of a neat row of 7 little chairs, she saw 3 enormous ones. As she walked further into the cottage, she saw flames roaring and crackling in an enormous fireplace. Then, just as Snow White discovered the enormous dining table, the ground began to shake. "Oh no!" she gasped. With a groan, the door opened all the way, and in came 3 of the tallest people Snow White had ever seen. They lumbered straight towards her. "What should I do now?" wondered Snow White. Snow White cleared her throat and stepped into their view. "Excuse me," she said bravely. The giants jumped back in surprise. "I'm so sorry," continued Snow White quickly. "I let myself in by mistake. Let me introduce myself. My name is Snow White." "Oh," said the largest giant, "it's okay. You just scared us a bit. We don't get visitors here often." "But now that you're here," said the smallest of the giants, "you should join us for dinner." The 3 giants knelt down to introduce themselves to Snow White. She was relieved they were as kind as the dwarfs had been when they first met her. The smallest giant helped her climb up on his chair. "You'll need some cushions," he said, laughing. "And here is a small plate and glass," said the middle-sized giant. "Thank you," said Snow White. "You're all so kind." The next day, Snow White told the dwarfs about her adventure. "Giants," stammered Bashful. Sleepy yawned. "Aren't they dangerous?" "Not at all," Snow White reassured them. "Don't trust them," said Grumpy. "You can't trust anyone tall." "But I'm taller than you," said Snow White. "You'll just have to come and meet them." Snow White thought for a few days about how to introduce the giants to the dwarfs. She just knew they'd get along. Back at the castle one night, Snow White had the perfect idea. She addressed 10 party invitations and made a list of the delicious food she'd make. All she needed then was a game to get everyone laughing. On the day of the party, Snow White announced, "We're going to play Snap. I'll point out something about me, and if it's true for you, shout Snap. And then it's someone else's turn." "Oh, I love games like this," said Doc, chuckling. "Here we go," said Snow White, thinking for a moment. "I have 2 eyes." "Snap!" yelled the giants. "Snap!" yelled the dwarfs. Snow White turned to Bashful, who was up next. I have 2 ears," said Bashful quietly. Both the giants and the dwarfs thought for a moment. Suddenly, "Snap!" called the giants. "Snap!" called the dwarfs. Next, it was the largest giant's turn. Ahem, I have one nose. Snap, called the giants and dwarfs together. I guess we have a lot in common after all, admitted Grumpy, folding his arms. Yes, you do, said Snow White. We all have things in common, and there's actually one more thing you have in common. You are all my friends. The end. Day 10. Tiana's growing experiment. Tiana sighed and hung up the phone. I've called every pepper farmer in the state of Louisiana, and none of them have what I'm looking for, she told Naveen. Tiana took a magazine off the counter and showed it to him. I read about ghost peppers in this article. I wanted to try them in my jambalaya. The problem is, they're from India. No one grows them here. As Naveen went upstairs, Tiana slowly flipped through the pages of the magazine. Suddenly something caught her eye. There at the bottom of the credits page was an address for one of the Indian farmers the magazine writer had visited for the article. Tiana decided to write them a letter and ask if they would be willing to sell her some seeds for the peppers. A few weeks later, Tiana was cooking up a batch of gumbo when Naveen came into the restaurant and handed her an envelope. As she opened it, a small packet fell to the floor. Tiana set it aside and began to read the letter aloud. Dear Princess Tiana, we have heard tales of your famous food and are honoured that you would like to use the ghost pepper in your cuisine. Enclosed, please find the seeds you will need to grow them. Tiana couldn't wait to get started. There was just one problem. She knew how to cook a pepper, but she'd never grown anything before. She decided to make a stop at the library to check out a few books all about gardening. By the end of the evening, she felt ready to start her garden. The next morning, she went to the market to buy supplies. She found pots, gloves, a trowel, and a watering can. Then, she ordered dirt and fertilizer to be delivered to the restaurant. Back at the restaurant, Tiana went up to the roof deck. She was going to turn the space into her garden. Once everything she needed had been delivered, Tiana got started. Each morning, before the restaurant opened, Tiana checked on her peppers. I hope I planted them correctly, she told Naveen one night. What if they don't grow? They will, said Naveen reassuringly. Just be patient. Finally, one morning, she saw a spot of green. Tiana was so excited to see her peppers start to grow that she decided to try her hand at growing other things too. A few days later, Tiana was planting her new vegetables when she heard a familiar voice. Tia, are you up here? Tiana looked up just as Charlotte opened the door to the roof. What on earth are you doing? You're completely covered in dirt. It's filthy up here. Tiana smiled at her friend. Welcome to my garden, Lottie. Want to help? You want me to touch that? Asked Charlotte. There could be bugs in there. Oh, come on, Charlotte. It's just a little dirt, said Naveen with a wink. And Tiana's having fun. In fact, she's having so much fun, I'm thinking of trying it. Charlotte looked over at Naveen. You're going to get your hands all dirty? I'm getting out of here before any of that filth gets on my new dress. Naveen followed Charlotte back down the steps, but a few minutes later he returned to the roof with a cucumber. Okay, what do I have to do? Well, first you have to get the seeds out of it, said Tiana. In the kitchen, she explained that the seeds would have to be washed and then dried for a few days. A few days? Cried Naveen. But I wanted to work in the garden with you today. What was it you told me? Be patient? she said, smiling. Just then, Louis came into the kitchen looking for a snack. "Did I hear someone say garden?" he asked. "Can I try?" Tiana smiled at the friendly alligator. "Of course you can," she said. A few days later, Tiana tended to her existing plants while Naveen and Louis got busy planting their crops. But Naveen wasn't finding gardening so easy. Fortunately, with Tiana's help, Naveen fixed his pots. Then, day after day, the trio trooped up to the roof to check on their plants. "Hey, look at that!" shouted Naveen excitedly. "Look at what?" asked Charlotte. She had come up to the roof to find her friends. "My cucumbers," said Naveen. "I did it." "All that dirt really doesn't bother you?" she asked. Naveen shrugged. "Honestly, it's kind of fun. It's messy, but look what I have to show for it." Charlotte wandered around the roof, looking at everyone's plants. "Wow, Tia," she said, "those peppers are really getting big. And Louis, those radishes do look tasty. You all seem to be having so much fun. Maybe getting a little dirty isn't so bad after all." She paused to consider what to do next. "Okay, I'm in," Charlotte announced a moment later. "But I want to grow something pretty, like flowers." Tiana walked over to her friend. "Come on, Lottie, we'll go to the market and find you the perfect flowers to grow." The next morning, Charlotte put on an old dress and covered it with the biggest apron she could find. Tiana laughed when she saw her friend. "I think you may be a little overdressed, Lottie," she said. Charlotte shook her head. "I said I'd touch the dirt. I didn't say I was going to let the dirt touch me. Now come on, show me what to do." Over the next few weeks, everyone spent as much time as they could working on their plants. Naveen surveyed the roof. There were pots everywhere. "What are we going to do with all these vegetables?" he asked. Tiana smiled. "Leave it to me," she said. "Meet me back here at 5 o'clock on Monday night." That Monday, the friends gathered on the roof. Charlotte gasped as she looked around. "Tia, you turned all your vegetables into dinner." Tiana smiled. "I realized we had grown the perfect ingredients for a summer salad, and for anyone daring enough to try it, the first batch of my new jambalaya recipe, guaranteed to set your mouth on fire." The end. Day 9. An amazing team. Aurora loved being a princess, but after spending so many years in a quiet cottage, her life at the castle was often a bit overwhelming. One day, Aurora was embellishing a flag for the upcoming joust. The whole kingdom gathered at this exciting event to watch knights compete on horseback. But Aurora noticed Samson, Philippe's horse, was refusing to follow the stable hand into his stall. "The prince is travelling, so the horse won't get to compete in the joust," the stable hand said. "It seems like we both could use some fresh air," Aurora said to Samson. "I'd like to take you somewhere special." But it was an awkward ride into town. Samson and Aurora had trouble finding a rhythm. Eventually, they reached the village. It was bustling with people. Just then, Aurora had an idea. "What if we compete in the joust together?" she whispered to Samson. Samson was overjoyed. He immediately raced to the field where he and Philip used to practice. "You're amazing!" Aurora exclaimed. "Is this where I'm going to learn how to joust?" Samson whinnied in reply. In the joust, Aurora would have to thread a series of rings onto her lance. galloped down a straightway, and disarmed the knight pitted against her. On the night before the tournament, Aurora revealed her plan to her parents. Since Philip won't be present for the joust tomorrow, I'd like to compete in his place. After a brief silence, her mother spoke. You're a new kind of princess, she said. It would be our honor to have you participate. The sun rose early the next morning. The townspeople gathered around the jousting arena, excitedly waving flags and banners. Aurora and Samson took their place amongst the competitors. Their hearts raced as they surveyed the scene. No matter what happens, Aurora whispered to Samson, we are a team. All of a sudden, their names were announced. It was time to compete. Samson took off. Aurora lifted her lance and put it through all the rings in their path. Aurora and Samson charged towards their opponent, the valiant Sir Caspar from Kingdom of Blumenfield. Now, Aurora needed to disarm Sir Caspar, but their weapons kept getting locked. She had to try a different tactic. While Aurora was thinking of a new plan, Sir Caspar sent her lance flying through the air. With the weapon gone, Aurora and Samson were defeated. At the end of the day, the winners were announced. Aurora and Samson ended up in fourth. Not bad for our first tournament, Aurora said with a wink. She and Samson made an amazing team. The end. Day 8, a day with Moana. The morning sun rose high over Motunui as Moana headed through the village. Good morning, Moana said, approaching two women with baskets of food. How are things? Hi, Moana, it's a fine day, but we're low on sugarcane and won't have enough for what we're making. I can help, Moana volunteered. I'll gather some more for you. Moana and a group of children from the village set off to find more sugarcane. The forest was full of giant trees, colourful plants, and rocks and boulders of all sizes. Without any clear paths to walk along, it was obvious why Moana had told the children to stick together. Moana looked for visual signs to help her find her way. See, that rock over there looks a little like Pua, Moana said. The kids love Pua and could picture him as if he were right there. Moana pulled aside some thick green vines, revealing a large grove of coconut trees. Can we stop for a snack? Lume asked. That's just what I was thinking, Moana replied. Lume and Toa scrambled up a tree. They picked the ripest fruits, then tossed them down. After they broke open the coconuts against a rock, they devoured the white meat and drank the sweet water inside. It was a refreshing break. Do we have time for a game? Fetuo asked. Since they reached the coconut grove sooner than Moana had expected, she figured a quick game wouldn't hurt. How about a round of hide and seek? She asked. Yes, the children exclaimed. They scattered in every direction. But stay close by, Moana called after them. She shut her eyes and began to count. While he was looking for a place to hide, Toa saw a colourful bird he'd never seen before. He began to follow the bird. Time's up, Moana yelled. She opened her eyes and began to look for the children. In a matter of minutes, Moana had found Fetuo, Lume, and Messina. That meant only Toa was left, but no matter where she looked, Moana couldn't find him. Good job, Toa. You found the best hiding spot. You can come out now, Moana said. When he didn't appear, Moana was worried he was lost. Meanwhile, Toa had followed the colourful bird all the way to the back to its nest. He turned round to show his friends, but realised he was all alone. He started to worry, but he remembered what Moana had said earlier, and he sat down and waited for her to find him. Moana and the other children went back through the vines towards the pua-shaped rock. It was there that Moana noticed some bright blue feathers. Maybe he went up this way, she said. They picked up the feathers and continued walking. Not far away, they came upon another clearing, and there was someone familiar sitting on a rock. Toa! Fetuo cried as Moana hugged him. They were relieved to see he was safe and sound. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't mean to go off so far. I was following that bird and ended up here. He pointed to a nest in a tree hollow. Moana looked up to see a bird with several baby chicks. Toa had stumbled upon a mother bird as she was returning to her family. Well, it looks like everyone is back together again, Moana said, smiling. Look over there, directed Fetuo. That's the tallest grass I've ever seen, added Messina. Moana followed the girls and couldn't believe her eyes. Thanks to their unexpected detour, they had found a shortcut to the sugarcane field. This is exactly what we're looking for, Moana cheered. She broke off pieces of the sugarcane stalks and passed them to the children, who arranged them in piles. After gathering as much as their arms could carry, it was time to head home. Before we go, Moana said, let's create a sign to mark the new shortcut. They carved an outline of the bird into the ground with sticks. Finally, they stuck the blue feathers they'd collected in the ground next to their landmark. It was a perfect way to end their afternoon. Soon, Moana and the children arrived back in the village. Moana gave the basket of sugarcane to the women, who were delighted to see the bright, juicy stalks. Thank you, Moana, one of the women exclaimed. These are wonderful. It was our pleasure, Moana replied. As they said goodbye, Moana gave each child a hungi, pressing her nose against theirs. When I grow up, I want to be just like you, Toa said. Moana was touched. As Grandma Tala says, you can be whatever your heart tells you. Moana smiled all the way home. Her heart felt as full as the basket of sugarcane. The end. Day 7. Aladdin. Once, there was an evil sorcerer named Jafar, who knew of a powerful magic lamp hidden in the Cave of Wonders. He sent a thief to fetch the lamp, but the cave wouldn't allow him inside. Only one could enter the cave, the diamond in the rough. Jafar knew that he must find him. The next evening, in the city of Agrabah, a poor young man named Aladdin and his monkey, Abu, sat to eat their first meal in days, but Aladdin gave the food to some hungry children instead. Someday, Abu, things are going to change, Aladdin said. Meanwhile, Princess Jasmine was very unhappy. Her father, the Sultan, wanted her to marry a prince in just 3 days' time. It's the law, he said. You're a princess. Maybe I don't want to be a princess anymore, she replied, patting her pet tiger Raja. If I do marry, I want it to be for love. The Sultan called upon his most trusted advisor, the sorcerer Jafar. I am in desperate need of your wisdom, the Sultan pleaded. Jasmine refuses to choose a husband. Jafar had a plan. He would marry Jasmine and become Sultan himself. He hypnotized the Sultan with his snake staff and stole the Sultan's mystic ring. That night, Jasmine decided to run away. Outside the palace, she found herself alone in a new world, Agrabah's busy marketplace. She saw a hungry child and gave him an apple from a fruit stand, but she hadn't realized she would have to pay. Luckily, clever Aladdin helped her get away. "So where are you from?" Aladdin asked. "I ran away," Jasmine answered. "My father is forcing me to get married." By now, Jafar had discovered that Aladdin was the diamond in the rough. He ordered the Sultan's guards to bring the young man to him. Soon, Aladdin was locked away in a dark dungeon. He could think only of the beautiful princess he would never see again. But there was another prisoner in the dungeon, an old man, who told Aladdin about a cave full of treasure. Aladdin followed the old prisoner through a secret passage and out to the desert. Soon, he and Abu were standing before the Cave of Wonders. A booming voice told Aladdin that he could enter, but must not touch anything except for the lamp. "Fetch me the lamp and you shall have your reward," the old prisoner promised. But Abu touched a gem. The voice of the cave spoke. "You touched the forbidden treasure. You shall never see the light of day again." Aladdin and Abu raced for the entrance. As soon as the old man had the lamp, he pushed Aladdin and Abu back inside the cave. He was really Jafar in disguise. But when he reached into his robe for the lamp, it was gone. A magic carpet caught Aladdin and Abu and placed them safely on the floor of the cave. Aladdin saw Abu had the lamp and rubbed it to clean off some of the dust. A cloud of smoke poured from its spout and turned into a giant blue genie. The genie explained that he could grant Aladdin 3 wishes. Aladdin didn't want to waste a wish and tricked the genie into getting them out of the cave. For the first of his wishes, Aladdin asked to be made a prince, thinking that only a prince could marry a princess. The genie worked his magic. Calling himself Prince Ali, Aladdin went to speak to the Sultan. "Your Majesty, I seek your daughter's hand in marriage," he announced. The Sultan was thrilled, but Jasmine thought Aladdin was just another snooty prince and wanted nothing to do with him. "Please give me a chance," Aladdin asked Jasmine. Then he invited her on a magic carpet ride. Jasmine realized that the prince was the young man she had met in the marketplace. By the end of the night, they had fallen in love. Jafar soon found out about Prince Ali and Princess Jasmine. He ordered Prince Ali to be chained up and thrown into the sea. Aladdin used his second wish to save his life. Aladdin raced back to the palace. He arrived just in time. The hypnotized Sultan was about to order Jasmine to marry Jafar. Aladdin revealed Jafar as an evil sorcerer, but Jafar escaped. Jafar realized that Prince Ali was Aladdin and that he must have the magic lamp. So Jafar's parrot Iago sneaked into Aladdin's room at the palace and stole it. At least Jafar had the lamp. Nope. At last Jafar had the lamp. Eagerly he rubbed it and the genie appeared. "I am your master now," Jafar bellowed. "I wish to rule as Sultan." The genie had to obey him. Jafar's second wish to become a powerful sorcerer. He used his new powers to banish Aladdin to the snowy ends of the earth, but luckily Aladdin still had the magic carpet. "Now back to Agrabah," Aladdin told the carpet, and he and Abu were whisked back to the palace. When he got there, the poor Sultan was hanging from the ceiling like a poor puppet, and Jafar had made Jasmine his servant. Jafar didn't notice Aladdin sneaking in, but just as Aladdin reached for the lamp, Jafar spotted his reflection in Jasmine's tiara. "How many times do I have to kill you, boy?" Jafar snarled. He fired his snake staff at Aladdin and trapped him. Jasmine ran to help, but Jafar trapped her too. "Princess, your time is up," he cried. But Aladdin had a brilliant idea to get rid of Jafar. "The genie has more power than you'll ever have," he told him. So the power-hungry Jafar used his last wish to become a genie. Jafar had forgotten one thing. All genies must live in a lamp until they are summoned by a new master. "No!" he wailed as Aladdin trapped him inside a magic lamp. As a reward for Aladdin's bravery, the Sultan changed the laws so Jasmine could marry whoever she chose. Of course, she chose her one true love, Aladdin. Aladdin now had all he could wish for and used his third wish to free the genie. The genie was so happy and couldn't wait to travel the world. Aladdin and the genie said goodbye, but they knew they would be friends forever. The end.